This video is about the famous people and celebrities who passed away in 1988 in the United States. This is the first episode. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. William Cagney. He was born in March 1905 and he died in January 1988. His age was 82 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. William Cagney was an American film producer and actor, remembered for his roles in monogram picture films Lost in the Stratosphere and Flirting with Danger, both filmed in 1934. He produced several of his older look-alike brother James Cagney's films, including City for Conquest in 1940, Johnny Come Lately in 1943, Blood on the Sun in 1945, The Time of Your Life in 1948, Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye in 1950, and A Lion is in the Streets in 1953. He was credited as an associate producer on The Bride Came COD in 1941 and Yankee Doodle Dandy in 1942, and he also handled his brother's business affairs, negotiating several of his Hollywood studio contracts. Cagney was married to actress Boots Mallory. They had two children together, Jill and Stephen. Before their divorce in 1946, he next married Nadine Parker, and they had one child together, William Jr. Before their divorce in 1954, Cagney died on January 3, 1988 in Newport Beach, California at the age of 82. Joy Chitwood. He was born in April 1912 and he died in January 1988. His age was 75 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Joy Chitwood was a stunt driver who gained fame for his thrilling car stunts, inspiring Hollywood stunt driving techniques. He is best known as a daredevil in The Joy Chitwood Thrill Show. Chitwood built his first race car from an Essex, driving the car after the driver failed to appear. He finished second. He started his racing career in 1934 at a dirt track in Winfield, Kansas. From there, he began racing big cars. In 1937 and 1938, he finished second in the Central States Racing Association season points standings. In 1939 and 1940, he switched to the American Automobile Association East Coast Sprint Car Championship. He switched back to the CSRA and won its title in 1942, winning 14 consecutive CSRA features that season. Chitwood was frequently hired by Hollywood film studios to either do stunt driving for films or to act as auto stunt coordinator. Chitwood was one of the stunt drivers in the Clark Gable and Barbara Stanwyck 1950 film about auto racing, To Please a Lady. Chitwood's son Tim Chitwood became a highly prominent stunt driver and appeared in a number of movies. Pete Maravich. He was born in June 1947 and he died in January 1988. His age was 40 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was heart failure. Pete Pistol Maravich was an American professional basketball player. He starred in college at Louisiana State University's Tigers basketball team. His father, Press Maravich, was the team's head coach. Maravich is the all-time leading NCAA Division I men's scorer with 3,667 points scored and an average of 44.2 points per game. All of his accomplishments were achieved before the adoption of three-point line and shot clock, and despite being unable to play varsity as a freshman under then NCAA rules, Maravich was selected by Atlanta Hawks in the 1970 NBA draft, playing 4 seasons for the team. He was traded for the New Orleans Jazz, then an expansion team, with whom he spent the majority of the rest of his career. His final season was split between the Jazz and the Boston Celtics. Injuries ultimately forced Maravich's retirement in 1980 following a 10-year professional basketball career. He was named an All-Star 5 times and was named to 4 All-NBA teams during his professional career. One of the youngest players ever introduced into Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, Maravich was considered to be one of the greatest creative offensive talents ever and one of the best ball handlers of all time. Zara Crisco Bruff. She was born in January 1919 and she died in January 1988. Her age was 69 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was Parkinson's disease. Zara Crisco Bruff, also called Princess White Flower, served as the chief of the Nipmuc Nation, a state-recognized tribe in Massachusetts, from 1962 until 1987. She's best known for her work to preserve Nipmuc heritage. During her lifetime, she worked as an electronics engineer, fashion designer, drafter, technical writer, and supervisor of government projects. She held the post of State Commissioner for Indiana Affairs from 1974 to 1984. On January 7, 1988, Barrow died at Westboro, Massachusetts nursing home from Parkinson's disease at the age of 69. In January 2009, a Department of Youth Services facility located at 288 Lehman Street in the town of Westboro was formally named the Zara Crisco Barrow Princess White Flower Facility through House Bill number 3231 in 2009. Barrow served as a civilian consultant to the United States Army Air Forces during the Second World War. In recognition of her work, the United States Air Force awarded her the United States Air Force Award of Superior Performance. Pappy Boyington. He was born in December 1912 and he died in January 1988. His age was 75 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was cancer. George Pappy Boyington was an American combat pilot who was United States Marine Corps fighter as during the Second World War. He received the Medal of Honor and the Navy Cross. A Marine aviator with the Pacific Fleet in 1941, Boyington joined the Flying Tigers, first American volunteer group of the Republic of China Air Force, and saw combat in Burma in late 1941 and 1942 during the Second Sino-Japanese War. In September 1942, Boyington rejoined the Marine Corps. In early 1943, he deployed to the South Pacific and began flying combat missions in the F-4U Corsair fighter. On August 14, 1943, he took command of Marine Fighter Squadron VMF 214 Black Sheep. In January 1944, Boyington, outnumbered by Japanese Zero planes, was shot down into the Pacific Ocean after drowning one of the enemy planes. He was captured by a Japanese submarine crew and was held as a prisoner of war for more than a year and a half. He was released shortly after the surrender of Japan. The television series Baba Black Sheep was inspired by Boyington and his men in the Black Sheep Squadron. It ran for 2 seasons in the late 1970s. Isidore Isaac Raby. He was born in July 1898 and he died in January 1988. His age was 89 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was cancer. Isidore Isaac Raby was an American physicist who received the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1944 for his discovery of nuclear magnetic resonance, which is used in magnetic resonance imaging. He was also one of the first scientists in the United States to work on the cavity magnetron, which is used in microwave radar and microwave ovens. Born into a traditional Polish Jewish family in Galicia, Raby came to the United States as an infant and was raised in New York's Lower East Side. He entered Cornell University as an electrical engineering student in 1916, but soon switched to chemistry. Later, he became interested in physics. He continued his studies at Columbia University, where he was awarded his doctorate for a thesis on the magnetic susceptibility of certain crystals. In 1927, he headed for Europe, where he met and worked with many of the finest physicists of the time. His techniques for using nuclear magnetic resonance to discern the magnetic moment and nuclear spin of atoms earned him the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1944. Raby died at his home on Riverside Drive in Manhattan from cancer on January 11, 1988. Hiram Bingham. He was born in July 1933 and he died in January 1988. His age was 84 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Hiram Bingham was an American diplomat. He served as a vice consul in Marseille, France during the Second World War, and along with several humanitarian organizations, helped more than 2,500 refugees, mostly Jews, to escape after the country was defeated by Nazi Germany in June 1940. Bingham served in Kobe, Japan, as a civilian secretary in the United States Embassy. He worked part-time as a school teacher. He traveled to India and Egypt before returning to the United States to attend Harvard University. After obtaining his law degree, he scored third in his class on the Foreign Service exam. Bingham's first assignment in the United States Foreign Service was in Beijing, China, during the beginning of the Communist Revolution. Bingham also served in Warsaw, Poland, sharing an apartment with another diplomat, Charles W. Yost, whose daughter Felicity became Bingham's goddaughter. In 1934, Bingham served as third secretary to the United States Embassy in London. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.